I mean, really, what made it seem like a good idea to spray paint on my vehicle?
Why do I always get blamed for stuff? Huh? Why is it always me?
Come on.
For one, you're
not getting
the
started yet. Come on, we're just not getting the show
You already
started.
told me about it.
I told you I saw it.
No, you told me you didn't.
I think we're just going to have to go back and check the tape.
Calm down. Calm down. Luke did have a Canadian flag on his vehicle, folks.
Spray painted.
He's placing blame on Perfect Patrick.
Because he admitted to doing it.
The exceptionally honest Perfect Patrick has taken umbrage at this. So all
You
week,
said it was exceptionally Amish.
all week he's going to fight. Middle of the bookstore yesterday in Lexington, Kentucky, the Great White North. These two get in the fight and fall in the fountain.
Great White North.
The Great White North.
It was like 100 degrees.
That's because it's awful up there.
Well, what made it white? There was nothing white about like
That white chocolate mousse yogurt you ate.
I did eat white chocolate.
Exactly. Okay. Fans, on to wrestling.
Just keep the personal feelings out of it for a
Yeah, I
one
mean,
second.
come on, don't hate. Don't hate.
Just keep it calm.
We'll get you some citizenship.
Need citizenship.
You will get deported if you don't have it.
Yeah, I envy you. You can legally buy Cuban cigars.
I'm not Canadian.
On to wrestling, folks. Apparently these two are going to scrap and fight the whole show. Apparently CM Punk is back in the fold.
Boy, that took a week.
Okay, look,
And the new angle is champion versus champion. Cena versus Punk.
I knew it was an angle.
Oh, obviously it's an angle.
But they at least could have kept the illusion for a little while.
Well, let's go back. Let's go back to this one. Do you remember when Shawn Michaels just quit, left with the Intercontinental belt and went home, and then Razor Ramon wins the Intercontinental title, and all of a sudden we have this great ladder match?
No, not really.
They didn't get WWF in Canada at that time.
Okay. What? But I mean, it's literally a recycled Shawn Michaels, Scott Hall angle. Because here's the difference. They built it up between those two for about 8 months.
And look, here's the biggest issue I have going on. You know, John Cena, one, he's not supposed to be playing a bad guy. He's not supposed to be the heel. Because there's not really any heels left. There's no good
Except
heel.
for Alberto Del Rio.
He's the only good heel left. Okay, so, but he's getting terrible heat. And not the good kind of heat. Not the, this character is terrible. Actually, it's because this character is terrible. Because it's awful.
He gets more and more boos each week.
I mean, there's more boos Monday.
This past Monday night, it was just a cascade of boos.
It was
I mean,
awful.
honestly, I'm not the world's biggest Rey Mysterio Jr. fan. You know, he's all right. He was much better when WCW had a cruiserweight division.
Had the luchadors and
the high flyer gets old.
But I mean, my gosh, to let him have the belt for an hour.
Yeah.
You got to get Cena the belt back as fast as possible to build to the champion versus champion. You didn't see it on Raw this week because, of course, it ended with them having a confrontation. But house shows around the country have been having matches between Orton and Cena, the champion versus champion matches between Orton and Cena this week. And that's apparently the angle they're going to build towards for SummerSlam.
Okay. See, here's another thing.
Orton and Cena or
Pardon
Punk
me,
and Cena?
Punk and Cena. Orton and Christian are wrestling at SummerSlam for the title. That's the first announced match. Yes, Punk and Cena have been having champion versus champion matches.
Okay. Here's the thing. You know, they didn't used to necessarily just whatever they were thinking about doing at Raw in a couple weeks would do at the house shows. Constantly.
Right. I mean, it wasn't that long ago we were at a SmackDown show. They were doing some stuff.
I mean,
that we saw on SmackDown weeks down the road.
I mean, used to, if you go to the house show, they were continuing storyline there, but it wasn't necessarily something you were going to turn on Raw next week and watch again. Going, wait a minute, I just saw this.
Well, now it's like they appear to run, I guess, test matches at their house shows, and test angles at their house shows.
Well, I can
can
see doing that to an extent, but not champion versus champion for 2 weeks in
the original test angle had been up until this week. It involved Del Rio wrestling Cena in a #1 contender Money in the Bank match. You know, he was going to take it there, but they apparently backed out of that and just decided to go ahead and give Cena the belt by having him wrestle Rey Mysterio.
1 hour after.
That makes no sense at all because, as we know, Alberto Del Rio won the #1 contender match as well as winning the Money in the Bank match.
So he's got both.
You know, going by their storyline, Alberto Del Rio should have had the shot instead of Cena that night. But as always, they're going to give the belt to Cena no matter what, no matter how much people hate it, no matter how much it drives their ratings down. And Raw's ratings are down in the tank.
Oh,
it's no longer the #1 show on cable TV anymore.
Pawn Stars
hadn't been for a long time.
Honestly, it's unprecedented for the last 15 or more years for a wrestling show not to be #1 in cable ratings. Because it's the only place you can watch wrestling, and wrestling's fairly popular. But this shows its decline in popularity.
Yeah.
And just the vitriol and hatred towards Cena, the guy they pushed him up.
Of course, it also could have something to do with the fact that they no longer want to be a wrestling organization.
There's some other rumor swirling that instead of this playing, you know it's going to play out to be the main event at SummerSlam, almost assuredly. But supposedly Triple H is going to make an announcement about the real champion, who he deems to be the real champion this week on Raw. That's from what I've read.
I hope it's Ric Flair.
That would be pretty great.
Actually, I don't hope it's Ric Flair. Ric Flair makes me sad these days.
Yeah. And Flair probably needs to hang it up. He may be coming to Knoxville soon, though.
I think he may be trying because he did put up the website selling.
Literally, you can buy your own little hunk of Ric Flair memorabilia at RicFlair.com now,
or a 5-minute phone call
for a mere $400.
That's right.
Wrestlers made a lot of money compared to what the average person made for a lot of years, but they weren't making storyline money. Storyline money, they're making having these $1 million matches and.
Right.
That's like Ric Flair talking about, his horseman lifestyle he led. He would max out his credit cards and have to borrow money from promoters to pay them off.
Yeah.
Because they weren't making that much. Even in the 90s, unless you were the main event guy on Raw or something like that, you could make $100, $150 a night.
Hogan was the one exception to that rule.
Hogan, he was a powerful money-making machine.
Right.
And a few other stars were, but most stars weren't.
Unless you had some serious name backing.
I mean, you wrestled 300, 350 shows a year a lot of times, sometimes even more, for $150, $200 a night. $70,000 a year you're looking at right there, plus travel expenses and everything. And some of the top elite names got a little bit more than that, and then you finally moved into the contract era later on.
That's why you'd have people take off to Japan for 3 months a year.
Yeah, I mean, you make a lot more money in Japan.
In Japan, you were making the equivalent of storyline money.
You know, I mean,
they would shell out the money for it, but not just anybody could do that.
Oh, storyline money, these $1 million matches. There was no $1 million match. Dusty Rhodes won the $1 million match.
Yeah.
He probably got paid $1,000.
So what you're saying is the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, didn't really have $1 million he was carried around in that briefcase?
Pretty sure that was probably Vince's money that he was carrying around in those briefcases and handing out. Vince is the one that got rich off the promoters.
Even Jim Crockett didn't get rich off of it until really he sold out to Ted Turner.
That's why
so disillusioned.
So many of these former wrestlers, except Hogan and just a few others, are really not exactly.
And really,
I think Benoit came out. Benoit was a huge star when he committed his murder and everything, and championship level. I think he said he actually made around $150,000 a year, which is a nice living for anybody. But apparently, Ric Flair lives a very extravagant lifestyle.
Well,
he lives a storyline lifestyle.
Part of Ric Flair's problem is he forgot the two things that everyone must do:
die
and pay taxes.
Yes.
Well, again, you don't have to pay taxes. Then the government comes and takes your money.
Have to pay taxes.
Look at Willie Nelson.
Who thought he owed Texas?
And having a barbecue every year.
Yeah. Turns out he owed taxes.
So yeah, Flair, I mean, that's one reason. I mean, he loves it, and that's why he still does it. But there's other reasons he doesn't hang it up.
Right. I would like to, honestly, I'd like to see Flair go into a ring announcer type persona, or, you know, because he's, let's face it, no one can work a mic today like he can.
I don't understand why they don't make him an announcer, pay him $100,000 a year or whatever.
He would be worth it.
You know, easily worth it. I'm not sure what the announcers make. I imagine they do okay. You know,
Oh, yeah.
It's a busy job. You're on the road. Well, they probably make $100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Maybe even more.
I would do it.
So this is a newer era of
Vince,
contract wrestling.
I know you're watching.
$200,000 a year dollars.
No.
What are you talking about?
Unless the government shuts down, then his dollars may be worth as much as our dollars.
What are you talking about?
Rue that day.
What you guys talking about?
Nice, I really love your vehicle.
It's classy.
You know,
looks terrible.
wear it on your sleeve.
It's terrible.
You know, you love that. You love that Canadian pride of yours. It's great. You're a compatriot. A Canadian. Came in the other day, had my old WWF magazines out. He was so enthralled with the Can-Am Connection storyline. He loves Rick Martel.
He is a former AWA World Champion, man.
Just read it over and over again.
Won it with the Boston Crab.
The Can-Am Connection. He has the living Can-Am Connection. Canadian to American.
That's what we're going here, man.
Great investigative reporting superstar.
Yes.
Great investigative reporting. You're doing it right.
I'm so glad you can lie about everything.
Hey.
Do I have to go to Chicago and actually...
I wish you would. I wish you'd go to Chicago and leave us alone for a while.
You know how to take that. Another big thing coming up wrestling-wise, you've got Kurt Angle, who's going to take a leave of absence from TNA to train for the next Olympics.
Unless the Olympic team is really wanting some publicity money or something like that,
I don't
he's
see
not going to make the team. I mean, the man's 40-something years old. And really, that's a sport dominated by 24, 25-year-olds, 28-year-olds.
Well, here's the thing. Kurt Angle. Okay. Let's just be pretty much. He made world history with his Olympic run. But he did break his neck in that last match.
Well,
and he's broke his neck again since then.
he made that world history 20 years ago as well.
Yeah. I mean, literally, his first exposure to pro wrestling was early ECW stuff.
I mean, yeah.
Years after he won the gold medal.
I don't know why.
And he did. I mean, he
probably can make more money if you win an Olympic medal than you can in some wrestling storylines with your advertisements.
Well, I'm sure Phelps makes a pretty good living right now off his gold medal winnings.
Now, Phelps is doing pretty well for himself. That's the spirit of America, though. His hockey team, they get big endorsements up there in his hometown. They won
The Saskatoon Roughriders are big in the CFL, too.
Didn't Canada win the gold hockey medal or something like that? He was wearing a gold medal around for like 3 weeks.
I just thought you were wearing your Kurt Angle gear.
Well, he had a hockey mask on.
Oh, so I think you could have been going as the Lord Humongous.
Maple Leafs painted all over it.
Yeah, he was going as Canadian.
Blood medals.
Yeah, I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Superstar showed me the picture. He said it was you. Apparently, you played goalie, like a backup goalie for the gold-winning Canadian hockey team.
Right. Because I look like a guy who could skate.
You don't have to
The
skate
goalie's
to
just
play
sitting in the crease. You're
So that's
big. The goalies have to be big and block the net
I
up.
still have to be able to skate.
I don't believe Superstar would lie about that.
Maybe we should
Of course he would
fly him down.
We're going to have to bring him on the show.
Yes, Patrick. Why don't you fly him down?
I don't mean personally.
You know, Danson took the trip up to Kentucky with Danson Stevie yesterday. He could not speak enough good words about Eric Charles. And Stevie, Danson, he was the greatest champion.
No.
Of the old the greatest champion.
No.
The man, he followed the rule book.
Look.
He won belts.
No.
You were on the executive committee with him.
Danson Stevie was a good champion.
He was a great champion.
He was a great champion.
Canadians have a lot of arrogance about stuff like that. They think they're the better at everything.
I mean, I beat Patrick.
After you hit me with a hockey stick.
I didn't hit you with a hockey
I'm
stick.
pretty sure
footage.
I did not hit you with a hockey stick.
That's a disputed win, guys.
I don't know what
Very
you're talking about.
disputed.
Look, so I had a little bit of hired help. I put.
That's where you.
Pat-
that was your
Patrick?
Mexico connection.
Was it Mexico?
It's your Mexico.
I mean, what? You're
Yes.
just making up words now.
That's what
Look,
the dancing one told
Look, the RPA has connections. That's all I'm saying.
folks.
We know people had a little masked help. Look,
Steve,
Patrick tried to bring in extra help. My help was just better.
That was an advisor.
It wasn't
You're
an
an
advisor.
advisor. With
Mine were advisors. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yours were advisor with hockey sticks.
They wore hockey sticks. They did not use hockey sticks. He's lying.
pretty sure it was hockey sticks.
It was
You
not
know,
hockey sticks.
back in the days of our frequent trips to Lake City. And
You
Lake
were the
City,
women's champion.
I had a head injury then.
You were the. You did
I did
not.
too.
You did not.
You
You
took
just.
a rather severe blow.
You
there.
just knew that was the easiest
I
belt
mean,
to get.
I mean, they found me living near the Beaver Dam at Cove Lake, wearing a wig and pink lingerie.
We all thought that's just
It
how you
was
were.
as if Mrs. Roper had just went on an acid trip.
Look. You were not living there. Don't lie. That's not where you were actually living. You when you got tired of being the women's champion, because again, it was the easiest one to win. I mean, why didn't you ever go against Twisted and try to go with hardcore champion?
I won that belt. Won that belt at La Follette Middle School. Thank you very much.
How long did you keep it from him?
Like a week and a half.
It's an impressive run. Maybe the most impressive hardcore run.
It was the hardcore belt that was on the line 24/7. Do you know how hard it is?
What about the
Twisted still has it.
he had to wrestle for that belt in the parking lot at the former studio. So a giant in a van pulled up. He had to wrestle that giant to keep that belt. I've heard the story. He had to wrestle that giant for like 15 or 20 minutes to hold on to that belt. That was a very hotly disputed belt.
It was.
Yeah.
A giant. I mean, a true giant.
I think it was one of the, I think it was one of Andre's kids.
You just never know. You'd be walking down the street. 3 people may jump it.
It's like those young toughs we saw, out to search for the working man to get their street cred. That's for you, Jason.
That doesn't take away from the fact of what I was saying. The dancing woman was the greatest champion that I've personally ever witnessed.
He is a 2-time most hated man in SCCW.
It is the dancing woman, Perfect Pat, Ric Flair. That's the champions list of all time in any level of wrestling. I saw Superstar's rankings last week. That's what he came out with in the Superstar 500.
The Superstar 500.
Yeah.
He's going to release the other 497 later this week, I hear.
The top 3 are all that mattered.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't care who finishes last in the NCAA tournament.
What?
Yes.
I'm not sure why the dancing was hated. Apparently, if you follow the rule book and you're an upstanding citizen in and out of the ring,
He followed his own rule book.
Yeah, but he was the head of the executive. You were on the executive committee with him.
I bought him out because he was bad. He was bad for business.
Hey,
I bought you out. Why? You were bad for business. You were bad
It allows
for
me to
business.
live a
this is
certain
calumny
lifestyle.
coming from over here. It's calumny. These are just strange, shocking accusations. I've never heard anything like this before. I'm into the segment right here with this. We're going to have to take a break. You two can calm down. We're taking a break, folks.
I was the best
Get
champion.
Luke straightened out.
It was
You
great.
just calm down.
I had